Today's easy science experiment will be how clouds form. This experiment will involve the STEM components of science, mathematics, and technology for the target audience of 3rd to 5th graders. The experiment lesson shows students how clouds are formed and why it rains, how water evaporating from the ground forms into clouds, and when the clouds get full of water, they will release the water to the ground that makes rain. This is an experiment to give students an insight to how clouds are formed, and then how that once those clouds are formed, how the rain comes through the clouds onto the ground. Now, to get this project started, each students will need the following supplies. One, they will need a glass that will have water about 3/4 fill. Secondly, they will need some shaving cream. And lastly, they will need food coloring dye. The dye is to be used to formulate or simulate the rain coming through the clouds. Now, once we have all our ingredients, you will then have the students to take the glass of water, and once they take that glass of water, set it aside, they will take the shaving cream and apply it into the water of the glass. Now, one point to make here is that if they put a thin layer of shaving cream, then once they apply the dye, it won't take as long for the dye to seep through, but the thicker the shaving cream is, the longer it will take for the dye to seep through. Now, one thing to note that I didn't add that we should probably include into this is to incorporate a clock or a stopper, because they want to begin to take time to find out how long it would take if you had to use two types of ways of doing it. Maybe you did a thin layer, and then you turned around and did a thick layer of the shaving cream. At that point, they can begin to calculate part of the observation how long it would take if there was thicker clouds or smaller clouds, which is a simulation is the layer of shaving cream. So you may want to include that to just give it a different twist, a different way of looking at it, because sometimes there is lighter clouds you can see outside as well as thicker clouds. And I think that'll give it a little added twist to the experiment by adding a timing through their observation. Now, once the students have done that, then what you want to do at this point is to begin to apply the dye. Now, the way the dye is to be applied is that each student will apply a drop at a time. It's not to be poured in. Is slowly begin to take the drops and apply them. Now, where they want to begin to apply the drops is apply them in different locations throughout the glass on top of the shaving cream. This is to give the simulation of the rain as we would actually see it. So they begin to put it throughout in different locations of the shaving cream. It'll give that real illusion of rain falling through. Now, at this point, one of the things they may want to begin to take notice of is that as the dye initially begins to hit and penetrate through the shaving cream and hit the water, it may have like a swirly type of motion, which may give an indication. Some students may recognize, say, hey, that looks like a tornado. So again, through this whole process, they need to be paying attention and looking, because some of the very little details of things that begin to take place, especially once the dye penetrates through the shaving cream through and then begin to start touching the water. At this point, you should see a strong saturation begin to take place. Now, once the glass began to fill up with the actual rain, the dye at this point will begin to settle. They begin to settle and they begin to disperse, and what they begin to take notice is that as time consistently go on, the whole glass of water now become blue, which again, this shows them that this is how rain comes. Rain begins to saturate the whole entire thing, whatever the location is, and it now will lead them into some discussions and some questions, and here are some following questions or discussion that can be brought up once we get to this point. And the suggested questions or discussion may be, let's talk about the cycle of rain. You know, that sometimes you can, when it rains, rain doesn't initially comes down all at once. It may start to sprinkle. Then it may come down a little heavier, or then it may just have this major pour of rain. So one of the discussions could be as they're going through this process, or another thing, suggested thing that could be done as well when you're talking about the technology side, maybe they want to record the actual experiment, and that may help with the talk through of the cycle of rain. Another thing could be discussed is how the cloud in the cup is different from real clouds. You know, that may be a good discussion, especially on a day where the clouds are out. They can begin to look at the clouds or the suggested clouds from the shaving cream to the blue dye, and bring that up as a good discussion. And then the last portion, suggested thing that they could do is discuss where rain comes from and why water evaporates. So by taking these particular suggested discussions and questions, it can really open up this experiment, having to be a little bit more exciting, really cause the technology side, especially going back to the utilizing the videotaping, that could always go back and then they could even or should I say, they can measure what they actually seen without the videotaping, but then go back and look at the videotape and begin to compare their notes to what they actually what the actual videotaping is. Now, what I also have done is, as you see at the bottom of this PowerPoint slide, it says watch the cloud in a jar in action. And what I actually did was took the YouTube demonstration of the actual experiment, and they can actually look at it and compare it with their own. So I hope that you as the instructor can take this experiment, give it to your students, and take some of the suggested things, or then even add some more things, because I'm pretty sure there are more things out there. But I hope you enjoyed this demonstration, this presentation of what it is to see a cloud in a jar.